Okay, so remember they're changing my voice, and I think it's a coincidence. I just drank something and my voice changes when after I eat. You know, they do a lot of stuff like that using technology. There are things I liked about the two videos that I saw with the annotations because I can't listen to the audio and I can't look at much of the screen besides the annotation for the most part. First guy was an Asian looking gentleman. The second guy was a white Jewish looking gentleman. Now I'm not racist. That's fine. I have no problem with what race the people are who are presenting. No problem at all. When we get to the ideas, okay, these people, especially the second guy, the white Jewish gentleman, he represented for futurism, right? The idea of changing into the future and spending money on futuristic buildings instead of, building practical buildings for the homeless. We have some 600,000 homeless in California, and mark my words, how they're going to house them is going to put an emphasis on art. It's going to put an emphasis on philosophy. They're not going to house them all because they're not going to put an emphasis on actually caring about people. Mark my words. Because these are the philosophies that dominate America and the West. The right wing is like the janitor wing. It's like the farmer wing. Politics is truly dominated by liberal progressive eugenicists. Neocons are basically liberal progressive eugenicists that emphasize the white part of being a liberal progressive eugenicist. They look just as gay as their liberal counterparts. They all look like clowns. Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, liberals, conservatives, they look like a bunch of clowns, like it's the circus, a kangaroo court, a really silly process taking place here. So when we see these guys, right, they emphasize futurism, vitalism, right, the vital essence of a moment. We've seen this the Asian gentleman where he says that what he values in life, and he showed a picture of him on a speed bike, a motorbike, and he's kind of leaning to the side and he's catching the vital essence of that moment in the picture is the idea. Pretty interesting picture. The greater grouping of philosophies is rather harmful to society. So we look at futurism, vitalism, modernism. Modernism combines these things, right? Modernism and postmodernism, whatever the kind of mix that they apply. The philosophies aren't exactly the same, but it's that idea, right? You see certain elements there and they have a certain take on those elements. So it's like both of them are allowed by the New World Order, and it's branches of the New World Order. Some lean more postmodernist and some lean more modernist. And basically, you can look up these. It's a long story about what these philosophies are. You can look them up for yourself, but you see certain components in it. You see art, you see science, you see vitalism, you see futurism, and you just see different takes on it. Okay, art is a huge part of it. You see eugenics. Both of them have their own applications and role to play in the greater eugenic scheme of things. Okay, you see gentrification, right? Social engineering. Okay, you see things that remind you of communism, but communists were never really associated with advanced technology. They were and they weren't, right? They were hardly associated. The emphasis was like the farmer, the harvest victory, the proletarian, and you think of some kind of farm worker, some kind of factory worker, right? And they didn't really emphasize science historically when they described the communists, right? The hammer and the sickle, right? These aren't symbols of science, so to speak, but they're part of the greater scientific, process of the world. So there's elements of communism, but it isn't communism. And one of the greatest injustices in politics is to chop it up to communism, because the right wing supports, first and foremost, the hoarding of money of the governing class as political groups. As individuals taking a poll, they say, sure, redistribute the wealth, because they know it's not really going to happen and helps confuse things. And some of them want, most of them probably want the wealth of the rich to be redistributed. Okay? But when we see with these guys, who are these guys? These guys are New World Order philosophy guys who happen to be wearing a Buddhist martial artist outfit. Just like with the movies and music and martial arts in general, and dating and jobs and politics, every aspect of society has been ruined by the social orders that dominate society as part of their crazed kind of what you might describe as hate groups, rich, ultra rich hate groups, white, Jewish, and LGBT, and social clubs with a long history of fraternity hate group like activity where they persecute the political opposition around the world and play confusing political games to get at the opposition in the midst of the chaos. They call it an order out of chaos. And that is key in what they're doing. Of course, Set and Baal and Zeus, who is Baal's Greek equivalent, and Jupiter, who's Baal's Roman equivalent, and Zeus's Roman equivalent. Okay, and Set is the Egyptian equivalent, are deities of chaos, of rape, of murder, of mayhem, of theater arts, right? A young Zeus is Dionysus, ritual madness, theater arts. That's part of the madness of following the settler, to settle for the deal of the people who push the law of the land. And maritime, who marries who? Maritime, the law of the high seas, pirates. Maritime, admiralty, admiration, admiralty law. And there's all kinds of occult significance and things when you read between the lines and you see that, hey, they're concerned with that phallic symbol, that idolatry, that chaos, that nonsense, that lack of mental clarity. So one of the things I don't like about their videos is that they confuse the fusion of the unsuspecting victim who's on the fence and the big bad wolf. And they get them to reproduce that way. They play their part in it. So when he talks about values, it's like somewhat refreshing to hear it, but you quickly, if not immediately, know that it's in the boundaries of the social orders that control the state, when in their own Bible, Satan is the god of the social orders of this world. If Satan is the god of this world, is he the god of the social orders of this world? Yes. That's why 1 John 2:15 says, do not love the world or anything in the world. If anyone loves the world, love for the Father, God, is not in them. Only love for Set. So when females with they in their mindset, okay, in their set state of mind, their mindset, reject me because of their set of rules. They came down from the neo-settler, the neo-colonialist. They say, hey, you're a scrub in my book. I don't care if you're Jesus. They say, hey, you're not my type. You're not my type of Set kind of cultivated person. Zeus, Baal, the devil cultivated person. Deity of, deceiving, the deceiver, the liar, trickery-based rape, organized rape by deception, rape by taking advantage of the psychological construct, rape by psychology, misdirection, confusion, subtle coercion. Okay, so make no mistake. Personally growing up, and some of the nicest people you meet in life are Asian people, but the current direction of all martial arts, not just Kung Fu, UFC fighting, horrible bloodbath garbage, the current direction and the irreversible direction is a failure. It is a failure, it is a failure, it is a failure. This guy's on stage and he's saying he wants the crowd to do a certain motion with him. He says, everyone in the crowd stand up and do some breathing exercise, and then he does a slow motion strike in a sort of gay New World Order spirit. It's part of why they changed my body type. They want everyone to be in that's where the communist aspects come in, that kind of uniformity in a way that's unimpressive. So some ultra-rich ninnies can be like, well, look at the things that I have accomplished, as opposed to these communist leftist rabble that are extremely unimportant and the foolish, inbred right-wing fools that we put beneath us rather easily, I might imagine, as they sold out their families to the despicable philosophies we propound, but it makes no difference to us, so they'll pass us the most attractive women while they bend over and take a liberal eugenicist a dick in the butt. Yes. Have no doubt in your mind this was going on. If that was what's going on, then you'd see maybe 1 in 6 little boys self-report being molested, sexually molested, and it's reported one way or another. 1 in 4 little girls, maybe. Maybe you see millions of kids starving to death all over the world. Maybe you see 25% of Generation Z identify as homosexual. Maybe you see internet censorship. You see nonsensical news anchors confusing the situation. Wait, that's what we see. Those are the exact things you would expect if that is the case. And you'd see, this guy, the Asian guy, I don't remember how many views the white guy had, probably had significantly less, but the Asian guy had 14 million views. 14 million views. Because those who propound the despicable and dishonorable falsehoods of the state are allowed quite an audience. Well, I have, as a top martial artist ever, a mere 4 or 5 views per video. What does that tell you? How many of you think that's fair? How many of you think that white, Jewish, and LGBT supremacy is fair? How many think that they should control reproduction? How many think that they should be able to order women to shun me? To order their lives enough so that those women know they better date with their scale, if not being told directly who to date? They're set in their ways. That despicable deity Set, that no one in history who had any speck of honor respected at all. That scoundrel, that Revenge of the Nerds deity, that panty-raid fool, that organized rapist, that millions of German women who are raped type of scoundrel. That rape in Russia, rape in America. That Set rapist dog. Hitler was part of the Set philosophy, superimposing himself on Horus. It was what's called a con whore. It was nothing new in history. It was a con artist. It was a fake whore. It's a fake Horus. Whore is another name for Horus. And is it a coincidence that these Setians, like Michael Aquino, okay, he calls himself a Setian, but we'll say not necessarily him for the sake of the rules on YouTube. Is it a coincidence that these people call the women they whore who have African traits that are similar to the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order when we consider body shape, when we compare it to the Narmer palette in its original form, not the nonsense you see on the internet, and it must be the nonsense you see in the museum, because these people are notorious for defacing African artifacts and trying to make it look like them. In fact, they do it so much, it's even called defacing. Defacing. They even say things like take it at face value, and whore is a word that means something similar to face, right? The essence of the face of the righteous man. It means something similar to the word face, the face of God, the face of God's Son. So he talks about doing things with a passion. You're passionate about being the devil's pet, perhaps? Talks about values. You value wasting your life propounding rape cult members' despicable falsehoods. If that's not what you call what you're doing, then what do you call it? When you say things in a way that's consistent with the corporate agenda, who have 22 witnesses on record of massive corporations, obviously tied to, attached at the hips to the state with their lobby groups and the iron triangle of economics. No theory in it at all. The theory of evolution is more of a theory than that. Yes, they lobby the government. Yes, they're in the corporations' pockets. And yes, you're propounding their despicable falsehoods that have made men and women gold-digging scoundrels in this country and elsewhere, to the point where the most righteous person ever, while everyone else has no viable counterargument. Just like to my top martial arts argument. I'm shunned by every attractive woman. Well, how could that be? That would make them all useless whores. That I may as well stay put because we see the uniformity in the country. I may as well stay where I am, because that would make every last one of them a Yankee Doodle slut, not worth a dog shit on the ground.